Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome, welcome, welcome. So glad that you're here. I'm glad you're with me. I'm glad that you are on any of our campuses. And if you're watching online, we are glad that you're also with us wherever you are. I want to just begin by saying that, God is, what God does in people's lives is absolutely incredible. And, you know, I get a chance to stand out in front of the service and just kind of hear the stories. I hope that you never take for granted just the movement of God. And earlier this morning, I was outside, and I don't know if you know this, but this morning, I have no idea where this came from, but there was this unbelievably cool breeze blowing through. Did you catch this? And this is August in Arizona, and this incredibly cool breeze. And I just stood out there, and I was talking to some people, and just going, God, I pray that I never miss those touches that you have. He works in our lives. He does incredible things. And I'm so glad you're a part of this and a part of us and that we get to do this together. So here's what I need you to do. I need you to take your Bible out, open it to Daniel chapter 4. Daniel is probably about 2/3 of the way through the Old Testament. And just find that, hold that. We're going to get to that at the end of the, that'll be like the last thing we do today, but it's the thing I want you to leave you with. So just find that. There'll be other scriptures we're going to talk about. I'll bring those up on the screen, but I really want you to see in Daniel 4 if you have a Bible. So, it's coming to an end. The Olympics in Paris, it's just about over. And I don't know how much you've invested in. I don't know if you watched much. I don't know anything about that. But I know that in every series of Olympics, there are these stories that emerge. Just things, events, and things that happen. My favorite in the entire Olympics is the story of this Turkish shooter, this marksman. Do you follow this story? And in fact, I know that some of you have not followed this story, so just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, I just want to show you a little TikTok clip that's just summarizing what happened. I need you to understand the voice is generated by AI. It's a little off. Just get past that. Just pay attention to what they're telling you and what this guy did. Watch.
At the Olympic shooting competition, top shooters use the most advanced equipment to improve their scores, but Turkish shooter Yusuf Dikek is super relaxed. Other shooters wear special glasses, professional earmuffs, and tinted lenses, but Dikek wears regular black-rimmed glasses, a white short-sleeve shirt, and black pants, looking very casual, even with one hand in his pocket, just missing a beer. He competes in the Olympics like he's in his own backyard, making some people suspect he might be a hitman or mercenary. This athlete is a retired officer from the Turkish Gendarmerie, 51 years old, and don't let his casual attire make you doubt his skills. He started competing in shooting matches at 28 and has won multiple international competitions. At this Paris Olympics, he scored all 10s, getting silver because it was a doubles event, meaning his partner cost him the gold. Since his competition photos went viral, Dikek's unique style quickly blew up online. In an interview with Turkish radio, he revealed he shoots with both eyes, unlike most shooters who use one, so he doesn't need all that equipment. As for why he puts his hand in his pocket during the competition, it's not to look cool, but because it gives him more motivation and comfort. This posture helps balance his body, aiding his focus. After winning the silver medal, he expressed his hope to win a gold medal at the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics.
There have been all kinds of memes and all kinds of, like this guy trained John Wick, that kind of stuff. There's so much about that that's so cool to me. Number one, they said it looked like he just was wandering by the Olympics and dropped in and said, hey, can I take a shot? That's kind of part of it, but just the cool demeanor. And was that a cigarette in his mouth? I mean, this is like just too cool. Like, hang on a minute. Absolutely fascinating. The point of all of that made it so remarkable is, number one, he got all 10s, and number two, he had no equipment. He just had the most basic, and so cool, so like ice in his veins. Have you ever noticed how life is just like that? That's what caught my attention. Life is just like, there are people, it seems like, have to put no effort into it. It's just, life just comes easy. Life just happens. It's just, everything seems to go their way. It just works for them. And other people can go through all the energy, all the effort, all the money, all the everything, and they still can't hit the bullseye. And as I thought about that, I want to use that to kind of launch us into what I want to talk about, Sean and I want to talk about for the next several weeks. And that is this whole idea of relationships. It seems like there are people who, when it comes to relationships, they just come easy. They have more friends. They know it's easy. They thrive, and then there's other people when it comes to everything's broken, everything's damaged, everything's destroyed, And they're doing everything they can do to hang on. They're simply, literally striving to survive, not to thrive, just to survive. I think the truth be known is that's more of us than we want to admit. So we want to tackle this and we want to talk about it. I believe that there is a fundamental thing inside all of us that some of us figure out and others of us spend the rest of our lives chasing after and we don't get it. I'm going to do my best. Sean's going to do his best. We're going to try to communicate something that I think you need to know, something that you were born to know, something that is, it literally comes from God and it's in you. Let me explain. If you read the Bible, if you just get started in the book of Genesis, this concept that if you get this concept, life's going to go easy for you. If you get this concept and you don't fight it, you conform to it, life is just going to come at you, and it's just, you don't need all that. You just need, you got it. You can smoke a cigarette while you're doing it. It's that easy if you understand. Okay, now what am I talking about? Let me take you back to the book of Genesis. Genesis chapter 1, chapter 2. We're not going to read it, but let me just sum it up. God's creating the planet, okay? God's creating, God's doing all kinds of things. He creates the land, he creates the sea, and when he gets done, he just assesses it and he goes, that's good, that's good. End of a day, that's a good day, all right? Then he creates plants and trees. He gets done, he says, good, that's good. Then he creates the sun, the moon, the stars. Good, that's good. Then he creates animals and fish. That's good. If you read it, you get all the way down, and then there's the first not good in the Bible. And we've talked about this before. There's the first not good. And when he hits that, he goes, okay, whoa, that's broken. That's not going to work. We got to fix that one. That's not good. Genesis 2:18, it says this. The Lord God said, it is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him. What's this concept then that if I get it? Okay, here's the big idea for what I'm going to try to communicate in the next few minutes. Here it is, all right? We were made for relationship and we cannot thrive without it. Here's the problem for a lot of us. We go, no, I don't need it. That's not important to me. Nope, I'm an island. I'm a rock. I don't need anybody. I'm self-made. I'm self-function. I'm good. Pass on it. And we step out of a rhythm that God literally made us to operate within. And then we wonder, why is it so hard? Why can't I hit the bullseye? Because there's a fundamental thing that is in you. You were made to be in relationship with people, as was I. And yet we can push that away. Ecclesiastes 4:9 and 10 and verse 12 says, two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up, but pity the one who falls and has no one to help them up. Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. You see, you were never designed by God to just live your life on your own. You were designed to be in community. That's why we always say around, life is better together. It was the way you were made. But you might not realize this, but if you read the book of Genesis, chapter 1, chapter 2, there is an incredible insight that a lot of people are just not aware of. Do you know that God himself lives in community? That there's literally a Father, a Son, and a Spirit. We call it the Trinity, the triunity of God, the threeness and oneness of God. You might be never caught this, but let me read to you something from the book of Genesis, chapter 1, the first chapter in the Bible. Then God said, let us make man in our image. What? Yeah, let us create in man the kind of thing that we live in. We, the triunity of God, we live in community. So let's make let's make man so that they live like we live. Then they can rule over the fish of the sea, the birds in the sky, over the livestock, all the wild animals, over all this creation. So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. You were not made coincidentally. You were not made randomly. You were not made in some freakish, lab, okay? You were created with the essence of God. It's called the imago Dei. The image of God is within all of us. And guess what? In that image, it's community. It's not aloneness. It's not you being a rock and an island outside of everybody else, which is frankly why we are honestly captivated by relationships. I don't know if you know this, but people are looking for you might not acknowledge it consciously, but people are always looking for relationships, new fresh relationships. It's happening all the time. And we're drawn into any kind of a societal thing where friendships are clicking. In fact, I know that for a couple of reasons. Number one, just pay attention to TV shows. I don't know if you know this, but there's this show. It's not really new, but it's really popular. It's called, starts with an F. Friends. Yeah, Friends. How about Seinfeld? What's Seinfeld about? 4 friends. Well, How I Met Your Mother. 5 friends. Big Bang Theory. Friends. New Girl. Friends. Hey, guys, it's everywhere. I know we're driven to this because of the simple number of dating apps, dating sites. In fact, I just jumped online, I just did research on that, like what's out there. Match, Bumble, Date My Age, Our Time, Zeus, Talkify, Dating.com, eHarmony, Elite Singles, Silver Singles, Farmers Only, Pastors Only. That's a joke. Come on, lighten up. Tinder, of course, Tinder. All right, that's just to name a few. What's everybody looking for? What's everyone drawn to? It's not hard, folks. It's not rocket science. It's a relationship. I want to be in a relationship. I want to have what other people have. What is a relationship? It's simply any connection between 2 people, and life is made up of relationship. There's all kinds of relationships. There's family relationships you have. There's work relationships that you have. There's school relationships that you have. There's friend relationships. There's romantic relationships. And now there's this whole other thing that's been dubbed situationships. If you don't know what a situationship is, it's a relationship with no commitments, which makes you wonder, what is it anyway? That's not going to work. It's a situationship. We find ourselves in this thing that's not defined at all. It's all around us, folks. That's what I want you to understand. And we all know this intuitively. Relationships can be good, relationships can be bad, they can be healthy, they can be toxic, they can be all of that. But here's what you might not know. And this is the thing I want you to stop and just think deeply about. People who study people, sociologists, are noting a trend, and it's not a good one. Our number of friendships are going down. We're having fewer and fewer and fewer. Now, I can show you all kinds of academic data on that. I won't bore you with it. I would just tell you this. When asked, 50% of Americans say they have 3 or fewer close friends. Half of us, I can't come up with 3. 3. The average Facebook account has 338 friends. Are those friends? Would you call them friends? Do you have friends you don't even know? You have friends you never met? And see, that's good enough in our society to call it a friend, but deep down we just know. New York University psych professor Niobe Way said this: we're in a crisis of connection, disconnection from ourselves and disconnection from each other. It's broken. We're not doing life together. It's therefore not better because we're not within the design of God. So listen. As we move farther and farther away from the will of God, we're moving farther and farther away from the design of God. You cannot move away from the will of God, and you cannot move away from the design of God without tragic consequences, but we're doing it anyway. And I would suggest that a diminishing circle of friends is a diagnostic of a life headed for or in deep trouble. Don't answer this out loud, but let me just ask you, how many don't answer out loud. How many of you have a best friend? Don't answer out loud, just think, do I have a best friend? Do you have a friend does that best friend know they're your best friend? You used to have best friends, you have a best friend? Don't raise your hand. How many have too many friends? I got just too many friends. You know that classic scene in Tombstone? Why would you do this? Wyatt Earp's my friend. Oh, I got lots of friends. Well, I don't. How many friends do you have? And when I speak at men's events, here or other churches or wherever, one of the questions I often put in front of men, I'm talking to you right now. When you die, if you go through a typical, end of life service, we call it, a memorial service, funeral service, your wife is going to have to locate 6 people who will carry your body out of that building. I always ask the question, how hard is it going to be for her to find 6 people who say, I'll do that for him? We would love to say, I got all kinds. Do you really? Name them. Who are the 6? What are the chances they would step up and go, yeah, I'll do that? So we're going to begin this series today. It's all on relationships. I need to explain this. I said this last week. It's really important you understand this. If we talk about marriage, about 50% of you are going to go, the next month I'm out. If we talk about singleness and singlehood and what that's, and then all the married people going, oh yeah, like as if. That's not going to apply to me. We're not talking about marriage. We're not talking about singleness. Although marriage it'll bring it in, and singleness, we're talking about relationships, all right? And so what we've done is we've named this series, it's on relationships, but life on the other side of you. Life on the other side of you. Well, what is it like to be on the other side of you? You know this side of you, and we might know this side of you because you project to people this side. The image that cultivated, that you've been very careful what you showed us. How many selfies did you take before you posted that one? We know what you wanted us to see, but that's life on this side of you. But what's it like on the other side of you? Because it's different than on this side. And there's a problem here that we have to overcome. And I don't know if you've ever heard of this concept. I guess if you have, but if you haven't, you need to understand. There is a thing that all of us have a tendency to do, and that is to give ourselves the benefit of the doubt. So whenever there's a doubt, I might question your motives, but I won't question mine. I know what you're up to, but I wouldn't. We are always generous to ourselves. It's called a self-serving bias. Let me explain it, just so that we can get this, because this is crucial to understand what it's like on the other side of you. A self-serving bias means that when asked, people, so just if we took a poll right here, if this was just the way it works, and we said, how many of you are smarter than other people? I don't know the actual number that would come in, but about 90-some% of us would say, I'm in that group. 90-some% believe they're smarter than most other people. Now, folks, if you know anything about math, you know that can't be true. That's an impossibility. Because at some point there's a median, a middle. And half of us aren't as smart, and half of us are smarter than. We can't all be on this side. It doesn't work that way. When asked how many of us are better than average drivers? And I don't know the actual number. I think it's like 89%. 89% of us say we're better than average when it comes to driving. Folks, you can't be 89% of us better than average. It's mathematically impossible. How many of us are good listeners? Oh yeah, the majority of us by far. We're really good listeners. How many of us are really good friends? By far the majority. You see, the self-serving bias gets in the way, and it kind of blocks us. You see, most of us believe, listen to me, I'm telling you about me, I'm telling you about you. Most of us believe that we're easy to get along with. Most of us believe we're easy to live with. Most of us believe we're easy to understand. But you know what? You're not qualified to answer that, nor am I. I know whenever something breaks down, it's not me, it's them. And we love to point the finger at a broken thing and go, that they did it. I didn't do it, they did it. It was their doing. Because we have a self-serving bias and we want to protect ourselves. Most people believe they contribute more to the relationship than they consume of the relationship. Self-serving bias. So each week what's going to happen is we're going to talk about stuff, and we're going to go deep, and we're going to get honest. So let me just kind of stick my toe in the water let me just take you somewhere. Let me take you somewhere to show you what I'm talking about. What's it like on the other side of you, all right? I'll say it in a less threatening way, and then I'll amp it up a little bit. A less threatening way. I know pastors who have failed in church after church after church after church. One comes to mind of 4 churches in a row. 4 churches in a row he's failed in. But you know what he would tell you? Those are bad churches. Every one of them. Every one of them. And I remember one time in a conversation with this particular one, just going, I don't know, man, it kind of never considered it might be you. And tears followed because it never dawned on him. Could be him. Let's get a little more touchy. 4 marriages. You've had 4 marriages. Now, again, I'm not here to condemn you, but I want to say this. You know what everyone does who goes through 4 marriages? They say what's wrong with the person they left. Every time somebody breaks out of a marriage, it's what the other person did. Now, again, I don't mean to be mean. I don't mean to hurt. I just mean to say this. At some point, self-serving bias says it might not be them. If it's 4 in a row, it might be you. We go to school and we talk about things that kids are into, and they're mean. And these kids they're mean. Could it be not them? The problem is, they're a bunch of cliques. Could the problem be within? Now you understand why it's tough. Because to understand anything about how to get to the natural rhythm that God put within us to be in community, we have to overcome this tendency to cut ourselves a break every time, to be easier on ourselves than we would ever be on anyone else. So, we're going to talk about these things, and they're going to be extremely practical. They're going to be easy to understand, these concepts, but they're going to be crucial to apply. So, and then I only have a little bit of time left, and because I want to set the stage here for that was all unrelated. But I want to talk about the first thing. If you want to have better relationships, let me talk about the first thing that I think we all got to deal with, and it's the issue of humility. All right, the issue of humility and a willingness to be open when somebody wants to tell you something. Now, let me start with the premise here. I want to just suggest this, okay? And I believe this is true, all right? You might want to take issue with it. I believe that a true friend wants nothing but the best for you. And that's what makes them a true friend. So by definition, somebody who doesn't want the best friend, the best for you is not a true friend. A true friend always wants the best for you. They always have your best interest at heart. That's what makes them a true friend. But I want to ask you this question. How would a true friend then benefit you? And folks, there's only one way. We have to have friends in our lives that are willing to tell us what we do not want to hear and we do not inherently believe to be true about us. So you know the only one who can answer really what's it like on the other side of me? Not me. My wife, Lisa. She could tell you. My kids could tell you. That's what it's like on the other side of him. I want to ask you what's on the other side of you. Do you have anyone in your life that will tell you the truth, regardless of the cost? They just love you so much, they're not about to let you believe your own lies. I got to tell you something. I have never met a person in my life, I have never yet met a person, when I ask the question, do you have somebody who will be honest with you, has not said, yes, I do. No, I don't. I don't have anyone in my life who won't be honest with you. Every one of us believes that our friends care enough about us that they would tell us if there was something we needed to know. Self-serving bias, folks. You're not qualified to answer the question, what's it like on the other side of you? Only your friends are, and they know for sure. Let me put this in context for you, okay? Proverbs 16:18 says this, pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. Now, I've already said that I think every true friend I've got wants nothing but the best for me. And I honestly believe, and I could be wrong, I've got some really good friends. I've got some good friends. You know how I know? Because they will tell me things I do not want to hear. It's kind of the proof of the pudding. They'll say it kindly, they'll say it graciously, but here's what I want you to understand. Pride comes before destruction. So understand this, okay? If I'm doing something that's really harmful to me or harmful to my family, my friends who care about me will speak into my life. They will intercede, they will get in, Cal, I don't think you're seeing what's happening here, and they'll try to tell me. Now here's what's going to happen. They're going to tell me until they reach the decision that the cost to tell me the truth is greater than the opportunity for me to actually listen. Now, you've got to process that. In other words, my friends are going to try to help me until I start punishing them and they start paying a price that is greater than the value of the friendship. It's really important. And then they're going to go, he's not going to listen. And then they're not going to risk anything else. You have exactly the same thing in your life. You have people who know what it's like on the other side of you, and they're trying to help you. But we all have a tendency. You know what? When you tell me what I don't want to hear, I don't want to hear it, which means I'm going to deny it, I'm going to defer it, or I'm going to deflect it. I'm going to bounce it off. And the more I have a tendency to want to say what you said is not true, the greater the odds are what you just told me is true. And I'm protecting myself. And I'm not going to get better. I'm not going to get over it. I'm not going to get through it. Proverbs 9 says this, and this is so powerful. Whoever creates a mocker invites insults. Whoever rebukes the wicked incurs abuse. Do not rebuke mockers or they will hate you. Let me explain. There are people who think so shallowly that the depth is just not there. You try to tell somebody who's shallow, there's an issue, they're not going to grasp it. And their response is going to be to put you down. They're going to mock you. They're going to talk about you. They're going to say bad things. Do not reprove them. Don't waste your time. That's what it's saying. Don't waste your breath. They're not going to listen. Only to the degree that you believe that you can get through will you persist, and then you're going to give up. Just simply, don't waste your time. They're not going to get it. But listen. Do not rebuke mockers or they will hate you. Rebuke the wise and they will love you. Instruct the wise and they will be wiser still. Teach the righteous and they will add to their learning. If somebody's leaning in, you know you have somebody who respects you and wants to hear what you have to say and is willing to experience life on the other side of themselves. And folks, we make life all about ourselves. This is really harder than it sounds because you have to be willing to hear what you do not think is true. And again, I have friends that I think will do anything, but until I communicate, I don't care what you have to say, then they're going to let me fall. Now, I don't have much time, but I want to show you one exaggerated example of this because I think it can leave a vivid picture in our minds to go out of here and go ponder, am I like this? Is this my story? So to get us there, what I need is, let's jump over to Daniel chapter 4. And again, I don't have time to read all this chapter. You ought to read this chapter, but let me just kind of explain, okay? It's just a classic case study. It's about a king. His name is Nebuchadnezzar. Now let me be really clear. This is a real king. This is real history, all right? In the words of Ron Burgundy, Nebuchadnezzar is kind of a big deal. He's known as Nebuchadnezzar the Great. This guy was all kinds of things. He was a conqueror. He was a king. He was a builder. He built the city of Babylon. He built, if you might remember learning about the 7 wonders, you might have heard 7 wonders of the world. There's 7 wonders of the ancient world. There's 7 wonders of the modern world. 7 wonders of the ancient world. One of the 7 was the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Heard of this? The Hanging Gardens of Babylon he built. Now you might go, what are the Hanging Gardens? They're not gallows that people were executed on, all right? The Hanging Gardens, it was on like a mountain. It was a garden that was like 400 feet tall that was made up of tiers that all came down and had all of this unbelievable plant life. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon. It was a world wonder. The problem with Nebuchadnezzar, though, is that his success went to his head. Much like the success many of us have experienced. You lose yourself. You lose your perspective. Let me just sum up real quick what happened. So, in chapter 1 of Daniel, Nebuchadnezzar comes over and conquers Judah, the southern kingdom. And literally, if you ever heard of the Babylonian captivity, this is what it does. He takes the best and he takes a whole bunch of people back to Babylon, and he's basically want to enculturate them into the Babylonian way of life. And he wants to make good person citizens out of them, so he hauls them off. Chapter 2, what happens is the king, Nebuchadnezzar, has a dream, and he has a vision, and he wakes up, he's really disturbed by it. He doesn't understand it, so he gets all of his wise men, all of his magi, all of his soothsayers, all of those kind of, all the people who could divine the future, all those who had, he gets them all together. He says, what was this about? And none of them could answer. And then he basically, chapter 2, he says, you're worthless, and every one of you is going to be executed. If one of you can't tell me what that dream is all about, you're all executed. Word gets to Daniel, and by the way, Daniel is he's got 2 names, Daniel and Belteshazzar. Same guy, you're going to understand this in just a moment. But word gets to Daniel, who is one of the captives that he hauled off. He's going to execute everybody. And so Daniel just goes, well, before you do that, can I have a word with the king? And so he goes into the king of Persia, the king of Babylon, and he basically says, I can't interpret this, but I know a God. He'll tell me what you dreamed if that's what you need. And then he Nebuchadnezzar trusts him. He goes, tell me the dream. Tell me what it means. And he prays. God tells him, and he tells him, and he goes, oh, my word. And basically what it was about the future and the collapsing of his kingdom and how he's only going to reign for a certain amount of time, and he needed to humble himself. And Nebuchadnezzar was so blown away that he knew this. He goes, like, you are a servant of the Most High God. Your God is God. And he says all the right things. And then Daniel says, humble yourself, because somewhere in all of this, you think it's all about you. And Nebuchadnezzar, there's more to life than you. Get over yourself. And it's going to get through, except you get to chapter 3. And chapter 3 is where Nebuchadnezzar builds a statue 90 feet tall. Most everybody believes it's an actual statue of him. And then he commands everyone at a certain sound, bow down. And if you remember the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that's the story right there. It's Daniel 3. And they're going, we're not going to bow down. We're not worshiping you. We're worshiping our God. And they won't bow down. He goes, you bow down or you go in a fiery furnace. God will protect us or whatever. We're going to trust God. They heat the furnace, remember, 7 times hotter, and they throw these guys in because they won't bow down, and the fire doesn't singe their clothes or burn them. And Nebuchadnezzar sees them walking around inside his overly heated furnace, and he goes, get out of my furnace. Okay, that's how I see it. Anyway, that's my furnace, get out. And they come out, and he says, 4 guys in there, remember, one like the son of a man walking. Okay, but I digress. The 3 come out, and he's like, how in the world? And he says, it's God. And here's the message, Nebuchadnezzar. Humble yourself. It's not about you. It's about a God who's greater than you. Okay. So in chapter 2, he made Daniel, now listen carefully, he promoted Daniel over all the wise men, which if you ever wondered, why were wise men showing up 700 or 800 years later I'm doing this off the top of my head, in the time of Christ? Why did they come from the east? Why did these guys? Because Daniel was promoted over them, and he taught them about the coming of the Messiah. But I digress. Let me leave that. So then we get to chapter 4. He says in chapter 3, your God is the greatest God. And now pick up chapter 4. I'm going to go fast. Chapter 4, verse 4. It says this. And this is soliloquy by Nebuchadnezzar. I, Nebuchadnezzar, was living in my palace in comfort and prosperity. Let me just do a quick translation. The world is his oyster. He is the richest man. He is the most popular man. He is the most powerful man. He's got women out the wazoo. He's got everything he's got going. It is his oyster, okay? This life couldn't go any better. That's what he's saying, all right? And then in chapter 4, he has another dream. He had a dream in chapter 2. Now he has a dream in chapter 4. This is about a tree. He wakes up. He doesn't understand it. He goes to the exact same way. Get the wise guys in here. Get the diviners in here. Bring all those people. Tell me what this is all about. None of them can answer it. He goes back to plan what he figured out. There's this guy. His name is Belteshazzar. And by the way, just so you understand, when they took them, they changed their name. They gave Daniel Belteshazzar, and then the original guys were changed. The Babylonian name is Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They tried to take away their identity and try to get them to forget about the past. So what you have in chapter 4 is Daniel is summoned again. I remember what you did last time. So what are the chances? So he brings him in. Now watch this. This is so interesting. And again, this time it's about a tree. And in Daniel 4:19, listen to this. I'm going to help you. Upon hearing this, Daniel heard the dream. Upon hearing this, Daniel, also known as Belteshazzar, was overcome for a time, listen carefully, frightened by the meaning of the dream. Then the king said to him, Belteshazzar, don't be alarmed by the dream and what it means. You understand what's happening here? He's going, tell me what the dream is. And Daniel asks God, what does the dream mean? And he gets the interpretation, and he looks at Nebuchadnezzar, and he doesn't want to tell him. It's not good. It's not good. And basically what it's about your kingdom's going to be overthrown. And bad things are going to happen in the meantime. And he's just looking at him, and do I tell him? You've heard the expression, don't shoot the messenger. This is the powerful Nebuchadnezzar. And I'm about to tell him, if he doesn't humble himself, God's going to destroy his glory. And I can just imagine what Daniel's going through. What if I just spin it somehow? What if I just try to make it sound a little bit more palatable, not so offensive? I want to ask you again, do you have someone in your life that will tell you the truth when you don't want to hear it? Do you have anyone in your life that will tell you the truth when you don't want to hear it? We have an expression around here, perhaps you've heard it. We talk about it among my executive team. We'll talk about this sometimes. We will never stab each other in the back. We just won't do it. We'll stab each other in the chest. And you go, well, that's not much better. Oh, it's much better. Because being stabbed in the chest means that somebody's going to tell you something very pointed, but they're going to look you eye to eye as they tell you. They're not going to do it behind your back. They're going to do it face to face. They're going to do it in such a way that you need to hear what I'm saying. And I'm locking eyes with you. So Daniel has this dilemma. Belteshazzar picks it up. Nebuchadnezzar picks it up. Just tell me. Then the king said to him, Belteshazzar, don't be alarmed by the dream and what it means. Just tell me what it means. Belteshazzar replied, oh, I wish the events foreshadowed in this dream would happen to your enemies, my lord, and not to you. I don't know how you spin that one into something positive. Hey, really bad things are going to happen that you would love to have your worst enemy experience, but it's going to come to you. And here's the bad news that he's telling them. It's verses 24 to 26. I don't have time to read it. Let me just tell you. He says, your kingdom's going to be taken from you, Nebuchadnezzar. It's going to be bad because what's going to happen is you're going to be driven out from society. You're going to be driven so far from society, you're literally going to go live in a pasture. You're going to live in a pasture and you're going to eat grass like a cow, and the dew is going to settle on your back. You're going to be out there for a while if you don't repent and give God the glory and quit living as if you made it all happen. And well, again, what's the problem? Nebuchadnezzar thought it was all him. So it comes down to verse 27. And this is fascinating. King Nebuchadnezzar, please accept my advice. Listen to me. Stop sinning and do what is right. Break from your wicked past. Be merciful to the poor. Perhaps then you will continue to prosper. You know what the problem with being in power? Any of you who lead anything, you know what the problem is? You know what's on the other side of you? People who will not tell you the truth. They will not tell you the truth because you have the power of punitive response. You can hurt them. And Nebuchadnezzar doesn't have anyone who's honest with him. And now Daniel comes along and says, please take my advice. Humble yourself. So, is he going to do something different? It's the pivot point, verse 28. But all these things did happen to King Nebuchadnezzar. What does that mean? Well, I'll show you in a minute. He wouldn't listen, wouldn't pay any attention. And then it says this in verse 29. 12 months later, nothing happened when Daniel said it was going to happen. When he delivered the news, every day Nebuchadnezzar thinks he's farther away from the fate that God said was going to happen. 12 months later, he was taking a walk on the flat of the roof of the royal palace in Babylon. As he looked out across the city, he said, look at this great city of Babylon. By my own mighty power, I have built this beautiful city as my royal residence to display my majestic splendor. Aren't I all that? Praise me for my greatness is what he's doing on his roof. Notice all the me's and my's and I's. It's all about him. Keep reading down verse 31. While these words were still in his mouth, a voice called down from heaven, O King Nebuchadnezzar, this message is for you. Pick up the phone. You are no longer ruler of this kingdom. Daniel's going, what I told you is going to happen is now going to happen. You're going to be like this until you acknowledge God. Now look at verse 33. That same hour, the judgment was fulfilled and Nebuchadnezzar was driven from human society. He ate grass like a cow and he was drenched with the dew of heaven. He lived this way, listen, until his hair was as long as eagle's feathers and his nails were like bird's claws. If you're not following, he's lost his mind. He's out there with the cows. He thinks he's one of them. and just look at him. Now, if that was the end of the story, you go, oh my gosh, that's horrible. It's not the end of the story. One more verse, verse 34. After this time had passed, I, Nebuchadnezzar, looked up to heaven. My sanity returned, and I praised and worshiped the Most High and honored the one who lives forever. And notice very carefully, he looked up. You know the problem with so many of us? We look down or we look around. You want sanity? Look up. I don't care how great you are. And some of you are seriously sharp. Some of you are just incredible people. But I only say that as I look across at you. Look up. None of us, not one of us is righteous before God. Not one of us has got a life that we can go, my mighty kingdom. Look up. Change your perspective. Now, I'm out of time, so I'm going to finish here. I'm going to ask you again the question, who do you have in your life who will tell you what you do not want to hear? Who do you have? Who have you allowed to get close enough to have the authority and the credibility and the trust? See, here's the problem. We're dropping down this way. Fewer and fewer and fewer, because we're disregarding the fact that you were made to be in a community, not to be an island out there all by yourself. Who do you have? Now listen carefully, who will you listen to when your first impulse is to think they're wrong? Who will you still listen to? So, the first little step here is a willingness to be open. We're going to talk about relationships, and the easiest thing to do is if you just fold your hands because it doesn't apply to me. I don't have any issue. I'm the easiest person around. I'm the easy to live with and just not learn a thing. Or you can open up and go, okay, a willingness, all right, I'm going to listen. Tell me what I need to know. Next week, Pastor Sean's going to take this a step further. He's going to talk about blind spots. What is it that everybody sees about you? Everybody, but you. You don't see it. We're going to talk about that. But before we end right here, I just want to say this. It would be really horrible to come to church and go, man, we talked about the fact that so many of us don't have any friends, and I didn't feel like I had any friends when I came to church, and I felt like I had fewer friends when I left church. Because, man, he was hard on us. We don't want to do that. So we in our church, we have these things called groups. Groups are just opportunities for you to let people in your life. You'll only go as deep as you'll go. Nobody can make you go deeper than you want to go, but they're just called groups, and we have all kinds of groups where people just commit to each other, and we're going to do life together because it'll be better that way. But there's still a lot of people who go, it scares me to death, the thought of walking into a group this way. They all know each other. It'd be like joining school mid-year. I don't want to do that. They've already got all their friends. So this weekend, we're beginning on all of our campuses and online a thing called First Groups. It's a 4-week commitment, 4 weeks. We're even going to take care of your kids for you so that you have time to get some friends, get something started. And the lobbies of each campus, you can find, there'll be people out there that can explain this in more detail. I just want to challenge you. I don't know, man. What's it like on the other side of you? Are you just going to let it just keep going, or do you want to live something better? God created us, folks. We're made for relationship, and we can't thrive without it. And why would you really want to anyway? So, pray that you'll take a step. I pray that you'll come back next week. Again, invite somebody. Every one of us are in relationships. Every one of us can get better. And again, Sean will pick this up. But let me pray. Each campus, please hang tight for just a moment. There'll be just a couple of words that we need to let you know about. So, let's pray. God, thank you for the subject, and thank you for relationships. Thanks for creating us like you, and help us to realize that if we are going to live a life that's going to be easy in the sense of where everyone else seems like they're having such a difficult time, where we literally can walk by the Olympics and pick up a cigarette and put our hand in our pocket and hit the bullseye, God, it's going to be because we've got people in our life who have spoken and helped us to understand how to live. And God, outside of that, we don't stand a chance. All the energy and effort and time and practice is not going to work because we're outside of community. And so, Father, I pray that you remind us of this, teach us of this, whatever, but motivate us to, I'll take the next step. I need some people. And Lord, I pray that we don't just think about it, but that we actually put it in motion. So, to that end, I pray, and we love you and we praise you. Amen. Thank you, guys.